Have you ever felt like you were out of your depth, facing a seemingly impossible challenge with the odds stacked against you? Well, if so, then the story of David and Goliath is for you. It's a tale of courage, faith, and determination that continues to resonate with people across generations. In today's episode, we dive into the iconic biblical narrative, exploring the valuable life lessons it holds for us all. So get ready to be inspired and discover the timeless wisdom of the David and Goliath story. Let's start. 10 key points from David and Goliath. The Philistine threat. The story begins with the Israelites and Philistines at war. For 40 days, the Philistines' massive champion Goliath of Gath taunted the Israelites, challenging them to send a man to fight him in single combat. Goliath, a giant over 9 feet tall, wore armor weighing over 5,000 pounds and carried a spear as thick as a weaver's beam. His intimidating presence shook the Israelites, instilling fear in King Saul and his army. They were too afraid to accept Goliath's challenge, believing they would lose any chance in a one-on-one fight against such a formidable opponent. Goliath's challenge. As the Israelites retreated in fear, someone else arrived on the scene, someone who wasn't a soldier, but a young shepherd named David. David was sent by his father, Jesse, to bring food and supplies to his brothers who were fighting in the Israelite army. When David arrived, he witnessed the intimidating sight of Goliath standing before the two armies, waiting for a challenger. David listened as Goliath taunted the Israelites, defying their God and boasting about his own strength and invincibility. Each day, he challenged the Israelites to produce a champion to face him, but they refused. David's courage. Despite everyone's fear, young David was outraged at Goliath's insults to the God of Israel. Filled with courage and confidence in God, David decided to confront the giant. When he told the people of his plan to fight Goliath, they didn't believe him because of his age and lack of experience in battles. David wasn't a trained soldier like the men in King Saul's army, but he knew he had something they didn't: faith in God. He believed that God would help him defeat Goliath and protect him in battle. Saul's doubt. King Saul couldn't understand why David, just a young boy, thought he could fight the mighty Goliath. He tried to dissuade David, warning him about the danger and suggesting that there was no way he could win. Saul feared for David's safety and wanted to protect him from harm. However, David remained determined. He reminded Saul that he wasn't just an ordinary boy, but a servant of the Lord. He shared how he had faced dangerous animals like lions and bears when he was tending his sheep and had emerged victorious each time. David's stories showed that he was brave and resourceful, qualities that gave Saul hope that maybe David could indeed defeat Goliath. Rejecting the armor. To help David fight Goliath, King Saul offered him his own armor. But when David put it on, he realized it was too heavy and uncomfortable. He wasn't used to wearing such bulky armor, and it restricted his movement, making him feel awkward and stiff. David knew that to beat Goliath, he needed to be agile and quick. So he took off the heavy armor and went back to his simple shepherd's clothes. Instead of Saul's armor and sword, David chose to use his trusty sling and 5 smooth stones he picked up along the way. He trusted in his skills with the sling and believed that God would help him hit Goliath with one of his stones. Confronting the giant. After preparing himself, David approached Goliath. When the giant noticed David coming towards him, he was confused and angry. Goliath couldn't believe that a young boy would challenge him to a fight, and he laughed at David's small stature and simple weapons. But David stood his ground and boldly declared that he was a representative of the God of Israel and that he was there to fight in the Lord's name. He told Goliath that this battle wasn't between two ordinary men, but between him and the God that David served. David's words angered Goliath even more, and the giant continued to mock him, saying that if David wouldn't fight with his sword, he would kill him with his spear. But David stayed calm and confident, trusting in his God and his ability to win the fight. The victory. When Goliath charged at David with his spear, David dodged the attack and quickly grabbed a stone and loaded it into his sling. With a flick of his wrist, he let the stone fly. It hit Goliath right in the forehead, and the giant collapsed to the ground. The people watching the fight couldn't believe what they were seeing. The mighty Goliath, who had seemed invincible, was defeated by a young boy and a stone. David ran to Goliath and pulled out his sword, finishing off the giant as he had taunted David to do. With the death of Goliath, the Philistine army panicked and began to run away. The Israelites, who had been hiding in fear, now charged forward, chasing the fleeing Philistines and winning a decisive victory. Israel's triumph news of David's victory against Goliath spread quickly, and the people rejoiced. They celebrated their young hero who had saved them from their enemies and restored their faith in God. From that day on, David's reputation as a courageous and faithful servant of the Lord grew. He went on to become one of the most celebrated figures in the history of Israel, known not only for his bravery in battle, but also for his wisdom and leadership. The story of David and Goliath reminds us that courage and faith can overcome even the most daunting challenges. It teaches us to trust in our abilities and to never underestimate the power of belief in something bigger than ourselves. David's rise. David's victory over Goliath marked the beginning of his rise to prominence in Israel. People from all over the country heard about his bravery, and many came to see him in person. David's fame grew quickly, and soon he was being invited to participate in important events throughout the land. This newfound attention and respect made David feel good, but he never forgot where his journey began. He always remembered the day he was just a young shepherd boy who dared to take on a giant, and how his faith in God helped him achieve the impossible. As time passed, David's responsibilities grew as well. He continued to fight battles and defeat enemies of Israel, proving himself to be a skilled warrior and a wise leader. Eventually, he became the king of Israel, a position he held for many years. During his reign, David led Israel to new heights of prosperity and peace. He expanded the kingdom, defeated powerful enemies, and established Jerusalem as the capital city. David's wisdom and courage were admired by his people, and he became known as one of the greatest kings in the history of Israel. Throughout his life, David never forgot the lessons he learned from the story of David and Goliath. He knew that even when facing seemingly impossible odds, courage and faith could help him overcome any challenge. This belief guided him in his battles, in his leadership, and in every aspect of his life. So if you're ever feeling afraid or unsure of yourself, remember the story of David and Goliath, and know that with courage, faith, and determination, you can achieve anything you set your mind to.